There are people in our world who seriously believe that adultery is a normal, natural process and do not see anything wrong or condemnatory in it. The worst thing is that innocent people fall under the influence of such people and subsequently destroy their happy marriages and face terrible consequences. Mason Lewis and his son-in-law Jonathan Wyatt were on a business trip for their company, installing a new power generator at a client site in Virginia. Mason's father, who founded the generator company, is now retired but still owns it. They departed on Monday morning from Newark and planned to stay until Friday afternoon. John met Mason's daughter Jessie at Rutgers, where he studied mechanical engineering. They got married 4 years ago and have a son named Mason II, nicknamed Maze. John filled the role of the son Mason never had, and Mason treated him as such. John was a devoted husband and father, treating Mason and his wife Mary as his own parents. John lost his parents in a car accident when he was a toddler and was raised by his older aunt until he finished college. "Hey, Dad," John said midweek, "we're all set with the setup and startup. How about catching an early flight back tonight? I'll stick around for an extra day to wrap up the training." Mason, his gait affected by a recent knee replacement that hadn't fully healed, replied, "I'll handle the training. You head back early." Chuckling, John countered, "Remember, you promised I could take over training duties from now on. Plus, it's your 45th anniversary on Saturday. Mom will be thrilled to have you back early. There's a direct flight leaving in 2 hours. I've arranged your transportation and your bags are already in the car. I'll catch a ride to the airport tomorrow afternoon." A couple of hours later, Mason arrived in Newark and was making his way to the baggage claim area when he spotted his daughter ascending the escalator. He assumed John had called her for a ride. Moving towards her, he watched as she stepped off the escalator and embraced another man. His heart froze as he witnessed his married daughter kissing a stranger, the man's arms encircling her as if it were routine. He lingered behind other travelers, unable to tear his gaze away, pretending to be preoccupied with their conversation. "Stop it," Jessie said to Alex, pulling his hands away from her waist. "Haven't you had your fill over the past 2 nights?" "No, I can never get enough of you, Jess. When can we see each other again? When will your oblivious husband be out of town once more?" She chuckled. "I think the next trip is to Harrisburg, but that's too close to home. I'll text you when they fly out to a place farther away. I know at the end of next month they're planning a trip to Canada, which will last through the weekend, so maybe we can do an overnighter. Mom or Ellen will watch the kid, and I'll tell John I have a seminar to attend. I've got to go through TSA checks, so one more kiss to remember those sweet lips by." Mason was red-faced angry but kept his composure. He waited until the man was out of sight before walking around and up to the back of Jessie. "What the hell, Jessie?" She jumped, hearing her dad's angry voice. Her face turned pale as she quickly turned to see if her husband was there as well. "Daddy, what? What are you doing here? Where is John?" She quickly searched behind him to make sure John wasn't there. "Who the hell is he, Jessie? How long have you been cheating on your husband?" He had never cursed at her before. His voice echoed loudly, drawing the attention of nearby onlookers. "Oh God, Daddy, how long have you been standing there? What did you hear?" She attempted to approach and embrace him, but he kept her at arm's length. "Long enough to hear what a disgrace my own daughter has become. I'm ashamed to even lay eyes on you. How could you betray John like this?" With that, he turned and descended the opposite escalator. "Daddy, please." 20 minutes later, he was driving down the turnpike toward Edison, tears streaming down his face. Mason anticipated his wife retiring to bed early, as was her habit, so he quietly entered the kitchen from the 2-car garage. "Mary, I expected you'd be asleep." She sat at the kitchen table in her red pajamas, smoking a cigarette, despite her earlier claim of quitting months ago. "What's with the smoke?" "Have a seat, Mason." He noted her determined expression. "Sorry I didn't call. We wrapped up early, and John stayed for training. But there's something we need to discuss. Jessie called me. I'm aware of what you witnessed and heard at the airport." She calmly took a deep drag of her cigarette and exhaled towards the kitchen light above. "You can't tell John." "Rubbish," he retorted, his anger evident. "Our daughter is cheating on her husband, who's like a son to us, You don't seem surprised. How long, Mary? Mary appeared visibly anxious. She just needs to get it out of her system. He provides her with excitement that John fails to deliver. This is all so wrong. I'm going to tell John as soon as he gets home. I can't believe you're okay with cheating. You can't tell him. What good will it do? They'll get divorced, he'll move out, and Mace will have no dad. You'll lose a daughter whom I know you love. Plus, you'll lose John because we can't keep seeing him after what our daughter did. I love John too, honey. Think about how unhappy he'll be. My daughter shouldn't be sleeping with another man. I didn't raise her that way. Why would she even consider being with someone other than her husband? His face turned bright red as he leaned against the wall behind him. Stop it. You need to calm down. People cheat every day. She thinks this will be over soon. She's not going to leave John for Alex because she doesn't love him, and he has a family back in Boston. She's ending it now. It was just a physical thing. Mason's eyes widened as he gazed at his wife. Wow, you're aware of the jerk's name. How long have you been aware? Did she pick up being promiscuous from you? She let out a sigh and leaned back, avoiding his question. However, her silence provided the answer. You're such a disgrace. He felt the urge to flip the table and lash out at her, but instead he rose to his feet and ascended the stairs with his small suitcase. Jessie had been crying non-stop since her father left her at the airport. Her once blissful world had suddenly been turned upside down. Alex, whom she had been secretly dating for 5 months, had left, and she was afraid that her father would inform John, her beloved. Alex had filled in for John whenever he was out of town. Unable to drive, Jessie called her mother. Mom! Oh God, Dad knows about Alex. What? How? He's in Virginia. He was at the airport when I dropped off Alex. He saw us kissing, and I think he overheard us discussing meeting up again when they travel to Canada next. I can't lose John. Oh God, what am I going to do? Take a moment to calm down before you come home. Perhaps you should go to your sister's place where Mas is and stay there. It'll give me some time to talk to your dad. I can't believe I let you talk me into cheating. Sure, Alex is great, but not worth risking my marriage over. We'll just say it was a brief affair with Alex. Your dad will believe whatever I tell him. I mean, look at me. I've had plenty of other lovers since our 30th anniversary. He's been clueless. John isn't like Dad. He's made it clear that it's one and done if I ever cheat on him. Plus, Dad overheard Alex bragging about being with me for 2 nights. Don't worry. I'll ensure Mason keeps quiet around John. He called me names and yelled at me, Jessie sobbed. My own father. Take it easy. John might be upset for a bit, but you can work things out with him in bed. Men are straightforward creatures who think about intimacy all the time. He'll soon realize that women run the show in a marriage. I'll support you as much as I can, but Mason mustn't find out about my affairs. Can you drive? Or should we call an Uber? I've been crying so much I can barely focus. Leave your car. We can pick it up tomorrow. Mason took a seat on the bed, feeling the throbbing pain in his head. He wrestled with the decision of whether to confide in John, his anxiety reaching overload and causing him to nearly black out. Mary stood at the bedroom door, trying to figure out if there had been a conversation between Mason and John. Silence reigned until a sudden crash shattered it. Rushing to the door, she found Mason's body motionless on the floor. "Oh God, Mason!" she exclaimed, hurrying to his side and checking for a pulse as she gazed into his eyes. John wrapped up his day's work and decided to grab a salad at Annabelle's before heading back to his hotel. While there, he caught a glimpse of Sports Center before making his way across the street. He had been expecting a call from Mason upon his arrival in Newark, but upon checking his phone, he noticed no missed calls. After a relaxing hot shower, he threw on a Rutgers t-shirt and shorts, then attempted to reach his wife. To his disappointment, he reached her voicemail. "Hi, it's Jessie. Please leave a message after the beep." "Hey, honey. I guess Dad made it back home. He was supposed to give me a call regarding the job, but he never did. I'm guessing you all went out for dinner. He left early to assist with the anniversary party set up. I should be back tomorrow afternoon, so Get ready for some quality time together. I miss you and Mace like crazy. I love you more than anything, like cotton candy." After ending the call, he tried reaching Mason but was directed to voicemail. "Hey, Dad. Just wanted to check in and let you know the training went smoothly. I'll stick around tomorrow to oversee the generator startup before heading home. Good night, Dad." Sister Jessie Ellen tried to calm her down. She was crying so hard that her words were getting mixed up. "Calm down and tell me what happened. Dad saw me and Alex. He called me a loose woman," she sobbed. "He's going to tell John I messed up with Ellen." "Alex, who is he?" "Oh, damn, I thought you broke up with him after that night. You said you were drunk and it would never happen again. That was, oh God, 6 months ago. Why, Jesus." "I'm not sure. I mean, John is wonderful and he's everything I want, but he travels so much. I asked Mom how she manages it, and she laughed and said there are other ways to solve the problem. She said she's been seeing other men for years and Dad has no clue. I'm ashamed to admit we've been covering for each other. So, on those nights when John was away and I was watching Maze, you were cheating on your husband. And Mom couldn't watch him because she was also cheating on her husband. If Maze wasn't asleep, I'd tell you to get out of my house." "Ellen, I fear I've lost my father, and soon my husband too. I can't bear losing you as well." "Well, I suppose this throws a wrench into our plans for the 45th anniversary party next week. Why don't you—" Before she could finish, her phone buzzed. "It's Mom. I don't want to talk to her. Can you handle it?" Before Jess could respond, Mary spoke up. "Ellen, your dad lost consciousness, and the paramedics are attending to him now. Oh, God." "It's me, Mom," Jess said, picking up Ellen's phone. "Is Daddy still breathing? Oh, no. Is this my fault? Please don't let him die." "I think he's still breathing, but unconscious. The paramedic is approaching. Hold on. No, I'll call you back. Click." Ellen overheard Jess's end of the conversation. "Die? Daddy? What did you do, Jessica? Damn it, what happened?" "It's Dad. He's unconscious." "Damn, remember the minor stroke he had last year?" Ellen asked. "I need to go over there now. You stay with Mason." Tears streamed down Jessie's face. "Please call as soon as you know something." She noticed a voicemail notification from John. Tears kept flowing as he professed his love for her, likening it to cotton candy. They met in the cotton candy line on the seaside boardwalk, and their life had been sweet together. Until now. She felt responsible for ruining her marriage and potentially her father's life. There was no way she could face him. "Please hold on, darling," Mary pleaded. She wasn't allowed to accompany him in the ambulance, so she sat in her car, waiting to follow it to the hospital. It was the first time in a while that she had prayed earnestly. "Dear God, please let him survive. I love him dearly, and I swear I'll never be unfaithful again." Suddenly, her passenger door swung open, and Ellen hurried in. "Come on, let's go. The ambulance is leaving." Mary's hands were shaking too violently to drive. Ellen opened her door. "Let's switch seats." By the time Mary moved around and buckled in, the ambulance, its sirens blaring and lights flashing, had already departed. Ellen was too enraged to speak. Mary's gaze remained fixed ahead. "Did Jessie tell you what happened?" "Yes. I found out that my mother and sister are women of easy virtue." "Ellen, I'm your mother. I have no idea who you are. If Dad passes away, I'll never talk to you again." They remained silent until they reached the emergency entrance and parked. The ambulance carrying Mason was already there, its doors open as medical staff hurriedly wheeled him inside. Seeing the oxygen mask gave them a glimmer of hope that he was still alive. Inside, they were informed that Mason had been taken to the emergency room, and they were asked for his medical information. Mary was on the verge of shock, so Ellen took charge, grabbing her mother's purse to provide the necessary details. While another nurse attended to Mary, Ellen noticed 2 voicemails on her phone. The first was from Jessie and the second from John. Knowing Jessie was likely seeking updates on their father's condition, Ellen decided to listen to John's message first. "Hi, Ellen. I've been trying to reach Dad and Jesse, but I haven't heard back from either of them. I'm starting to get worried. Please call me back so I can stop stressing out. Love you, sis." Stepping outside, Ellen returned John's call. He picked up immediately. "Hey, sis. Thanks for getting back to me. Before he could continue, she cut in. "John, are you sitting down?" "Yes. You're frightening me. What's the matter? Is it Dad?" "Yes. Mom and I are at the hospital. He fainted when he arrived home, and we have no further information except that he's still breathing. I'm coming home tonight." "John, there's nothing you can do tonight. Come tomorrow morning." "But I need to be with my wife. How is she handling it?" "She's a wreck, as are we all. She and Maze are at my house. He's asleep, so Jesse stayed with him." "Why?" "Dad seemed fine, just tired, when he left here." "Damn, I shouldn't have let him go." "Please don't blame yourself. Just pray that he pulls through." "Wait, a man is talking to Mom. I'll call you back when I hear something. Love you too." Mary gradually emerged from her haze, realizing that her words about what John would lose if he spoke had pushed him to the brink. Moreover, she didn't deny her infidelity, acknowledging that her world was crumbling before her eyes. As a doctor appeared, she rose to her feet. "Mrs. Lewis?" queried a stout man in green scrubs. "Yes, it's me." "Well, we have your husband stabilized, but he remains unconscious. We haven't identified any physical causes, and we observed in his medical history that he experienced a minor stroke last year." She composed herself and recounted the previous stroke to the doctor. Noticing Ellen listening from a distance, she reached out for her daughter's hand, but Ellen recoiled. After the doctor departed, Mary turned to Ellen. "I suppose you blame me for this. Damn it, we need to unite rather than harbor anger over occasional indiscretions." Ellen leaned in, fixing her gaze on Mary. "That's precisely the issue, Mary. You downplay it, but Dad sees it differently, and now Jessie is terrified of losing her husband. Oh, and by the way, I just spoke with John. Did you not inform him about... He already feels guilty enough with the father figure he never had, lying in the hospital. No, I won't disclose it to him until Jessie and you decide to do so after we receive news about Dad." "Why would you divulge something that could potentially ruin his marriage?" "Perhaps because I take after Dad and not you." "The creature!" Mary exclaimed, blushing. "I hate it," Ellen whispered back. The two women turned away, retreating to opposite corners of the room. Ellen called John back and brought him up to speed. He attempted to inquire further, but she refrained from disclosing anything just yet. Observing Mary on the phone, presumably with Jessie, it seemed like the family was divided, with Mason's life and both Mariagi's hanging in the balance. John attempted to rest but longed to be in Edison with his family. After Mason's departure the previous day, he had completed most of the training, prompting him to decide to fly back to Newark. Being close to the airport, he opted for standby on the earliest available flight. With Ubers accessible, he reached Newark by 7:30 a.m. and home by 8:40 a.m. Not finding Jessie's Land Rover in the garage, he assumed she and Mason were still at Ellen's house. Despite the early hour, he brewed a cup of coffee and noticed 2 wine glasses in the sink, along with 2 empty bottles of Pinot Noir on the counter. "It seems someone had a gathering without me," he remarked to the empty house. "I might need to look into this." Making his way to the den, he nearly became sick at the sight. There were white spots on the black leather sofa, and unused packages from protection during intimacy lay on the fireplace. Oh God, no. Somehow managing to ascend the stairs to the master bedroom, John began to cry upon seeing Jessie's wedding night negligee hanging from the lampshade and the disheveled bed. 2 large wet spots marred the mattress's center, alongside an open tube of KY next to her wedding rings on the nightstand. His heart shattered upon discovering their wedding picture frame on the floor, its glass cracked between the 2 figures. He picked it up and, like a zombie, carried it downstairs to his favorite chair. "Why, Jessie? Why?" Jessie found some solace chatting with Ellen's mom at her house, managing to calm down a bit. Despite the dire situation, She knew her father wouldn't immediately inform John about her infidelity. Sleep eluded her that night, and when Mace leaped onto her bed, she woke up, hoping yesterday had been a nightmare. The impending return of John hit her suddenly, and the memories of her and Alex's indiscretions across various furniture flooded back. Rushing to clean the house before John's arrival, she urged, "Come on, honey, let's get dressed and tidy up before Daddy gets home." However, she arrived at the garage to realize it was already late morning. "Wait," she giggled as he rushed into the house. Juggling bags of clothes and toys, she entered the kitchen and noticed a bottle of wine and glasses. "I may have to appease him a little," she whispered to herself. "And maybe Dad will change his mind about telling him." He decided that Mace must have been playing in his room and quickly cleaned up before throwing the wine bottles in the trash. A smile appeared on her face as she remembered the first time she and Alex had shared intimacy at this very table. It was excruciating, but she enjoyed it. She and John were making love. Meanwhile, Alex and she were something more. While waiting for John to return in the afternoon, she settled down at the kitchen table, admiring his newfound splendor. She replaced the countertops with granite ones, replaced the old sink with a deeper stainless steel one, bought a new refrigerator, dishwasher, and stove. Now about the security measures, she sighed, thinking that maybe she and John could handle this together. That is, until she heard Mace scream, "Mommy! Someone was sleeping in my bed!" She rose and hurried to the bedroom where she found Mace gazing at his bed, where Alex and she had sought refuge to escape the wetness. She scooped him up and embraced him. "Do you remember the story of Goldilocks and the three bears? Goldilocks slept in their beds and fled when the bears returned. Mommy will tidy up your room." After confronting the evidence of her wrongdoing, she shut the door and cautiously peered into the master bedroom, where she saw her tearful husband clutching the shattered wedding photograph. "John, you're back. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry you had to witness this. If Daddy hadn't come home early, I could have cleaned it up. But now you know. He doesn't mean anything to me, and—" "Be quiet. Who do you think you are? You slept with him in our bed and Mace's bed. Goldilocks? Seriously?" "Daddy, Mommy, I'm scared. Why are you shouting?" Mace shouted from downstairs. "Curse you," he spat at her. "Clean up this mess. I'll go calm down my son. If he even is my son. It only happened once, and I promised it wouldn't happen again," she lied. "We can work through this for Maz's sake. He's your son." He rushed downstairs and found his son seated beside the stains on the sofa. She trailed closely behind. He embraced his son tightly. "Are you satisfied now, Jessica?" He only used her full name when he was upset. "What have I done?" She sobbed as she noticed the contraceptive wrappers and spilled liquid on the dark leather sofa cushions. After a few instances, they had stopped caring about hiding these items. Her eyes rolled back and she passed out. "Now what?" John inquired, restraining Mace and leaning over to check on her condition. She remained unconscious for about a minute before slowly regaining consciousness. "John, I really messed up, didn't I?" he silently affirmed. Mary and Ellen, exhausted, slept for hours. Throughout the night, other sick or injured individuals had joined them. They stirred awake upon hearing a gentle voice. "Hello? Wake up," said the doctor. "The good news is his vitals are stable and strong. He's being monitored via video and vital signs to alert us when he regains consciousness." "Will he wake up?" Mary inquired. "Only time and a higher power can answer that, I'm afraid. Our specialists will conduct more tests in a few hours. I suggest you both go home and we'll contact you when we have more information." Ellen, by her mother's side, urged, "Come on, let's go home and get some rest." As they drove to her parents' house, there was little conversation. "We need to call Jesse," Mary finally said. "Yes, and I need to ring John. He phoned me earlier saying he'd catch an early flight. He was upset about Dad." "Please refrain from mentioning what Jesse did." With only a 15-minute journey home, Mary postponed making the call. "I promised I wouldn't," Ellen said, utterly exhausted both physically and emotionally now. She drove towards her parents' house until Mary grabbed her wrist. "I don't want to be alone tonight. Can I stay with you? Ellen's anger dissipated. Yes, of course. But know that I'm very upset about you cheating on Dad and encouraging Jesse to cheat on John. However, she heard her phone vibrate and noticed it was John calling. Ellen, how's Dad doing? He's stable with good vital signs. Still unconscious, but more tests are scheduled for today. Where are you? I'm at the IHOP on Route 1 with Maze. Jesse's at home cleaning up. Why don't you swing by and grab a bite with us? I need to pick up my car at my parents' place and we'll be there soon. Bye, love you, bro. Love you too, sis. Where's he? Mary inquired. He's nearby having breakfast with Mace. He invited me to join. Jesse's at her place tidying up. Do you want to head home or to Jesse's? Jesse's. Remember, you promised not to tell him. John was playfully teasing his son, who was giggling and trying to escape his father's tickles. They waited for Ellen to join them before placing their order. Are you both enjoying yourselves without me? Ellen asked with a smile as she joined in the fun, tickling Maze even more. Laughter erupted from everyone around them. Suddenly she felt John's presence beneath her and quickly moved away, feeling embarrassed as she caught sight of her reflection in the window. Oh gosh, I look awful. No, you're pretty, right, Daddy? Mace said, grinning. John paused for a moment, pretending to contemplate. Well, your hair looks like you've been sleeping in a hospital waiting room all night, and there's a fly open on your jeans and... She glanced down in alarm before realizing they were both joking. You little troublemakers. Gotcha, Aunt Ellen, Mace chuckled. Okay, enough of that, I'm famished. With Mace present, their conversation was limited, but they managed to exchange a few words. I understand, John murmured softly while Mace filled in the paper placemat. She could perceive the pain and anguish reflected in John's expression. I'm sorry, I had no clue. I just found out. For how long? She indicated 6 fingers. Weeks? She shook her head. Months? She nodded. He felt like crying, because there seemed to be no way now to forgive and forget. He closed his eyes and slumped heavily against the bench cushion. I've lost everything. You still have me, Mace grasped her dad's arm. And me, Ellen stated. You'll always be my brother. They embraced just as her phone vibrated and she answered. It's the hospital. Dad is awake. They tried calling Mom, but her phone was off. Thank goodness. Let's wrap up and get there before Mom and Jesse. They ordered takeout and left in Ellen's car, leaving the pickup truck at IHOP. Mace soon fell asleep in his car seat, allowing them to speak freely. Should we notify them? No, we should see Dad first. They contributed to his condition by upsetting him. We don't want a repeat. Both of them? Jess was the one who cheated, not Mom, John countered. Yeah, she fooled me too. Jessie admitted she encouraged Mom to cheat because you were away with Dad so often. How could I have been so oblivious? He sighed. Join the club. I've been looking after Mace while they've been playing their cheating games. Did you know about Jessie's affair? Some time ago, she called me one evening and confessed that she was too drunk to drive. She was at a corporate retirement party, and I found her at the Hyatt Hotel, lying unconscious on a bench. Another man from the party helped me support her. We managed to get her into my car, but it was clear from her condition what had happened to her. He noticed it too and took her underwear out of his pocket. She was flirting with me, the man said. She wasn't drunk until we were done. Don't even assume that it was something else. Alex Miller, from Boston. I think you should get out of here as soon as possible. Her husband is vicious. He'll tear you to pieces if he finds out. Wait, how do you know my name and where I live? It's written on the name tag on your blazer, idiot. With that, he sped off like a bat from hell. I brought her back to my place, tossed her into the shower, and discovered she had slept with another man. The next morning, I confronted her, and she initially claimed not to remember anything. Eventually, she confessed, admitting that her mother convinced her we wouldn't find out. It seemed they were right until her father caught them kissing at the airport. I should stop, she said. No, I need to know everything. There's not much more. The next morning, she was mostly sick in the toilet. She must have suddenly remembered what happened because she started screaming, "No, no." She seemed overwhelmed with guilt and regret, confessing they had been flirting via emails for months, and that night was the culmination of it. She swore never to repeat it. I believed her. Why did she continue? Ellen sat up. Damn, it must have been her mother telling her it was okay to cheat. I still can't forgive her. They gathered up Mays and headed to the hospital. The physician informed them of his delicate condition. They were advised to keep interactions minimal to avoid any stimulation. His voice is barely audible, so you might need to lean in to hear him. Ellen understood she needed to inform the doctor about the events just before he lost consciousness. They stepped away from John and Mays. A few minutes later, she returned. The doctor is restricting Jesse and Mother from seeing him until he's out of the woods. Did he really say woods? John smiled for the first time he arrived back in Jersey. She playfully tapped his arm. He used a lot of medical jargon, but you get my point. Hey, don't hit my daddy, Mays said, squeezing John's neck tighter. When John entered the hospital room and saw his adopted father connected to tubes and wires, he was caught off guard. The steady beeping of the heart monitor indicated the seriousness of the situation. "Hi, Pop Pop!" exclaimed little Mace loudly, causing Mason to stir and open his eyes. "Hey there," Mason managed, though his smile was strained and his lip quivered. Looking past Mays, he caught sight of John. "Hello, Dad," John greeted, mustering a smile. Mason's eyes welled up. "I wanted to tell you—" Ellen entered the room behind John. "He knows, Dad. We all do. Let's focus on getting you better and out of here." "Out of the woods," Mace chimed in. "Right, Dad?" "He's listening to everything," John chuckled softly. Mason looked directly at Ellen and spoke louder. "Don't want to see them." "I've arranged for security at the entrance," Ellen assured him. Mason weakly lifted his fingers towards John. "I'm sorry. Love you, son." "Love you too, Dad," John replied, his voice filled with emotion. Jessie remained in a state of denial at her parents' house. Her mother advised her to inform John that it happened only once, and Ellen is fully aware of everything, so there's no point in lying. John will never forgive me. I'll lose him, and he means everything to me. I warned you it was too risky, but you deceived Dad, so... But you'll have Ma see, and that means he'll have to interact with you. I know he cares about you. John, Ellen, and Mace ventured into the waiting area to strategize their next moves. Exhausted, they all closed their eyes, with Mace nestled on his father's lap and Ellen resting her head against his shoulder. Ellen stirred awake, startled by a noise, only to find Mace missing. "John, wake up. What's wrong?" "Mace is gone." "Mace! Mace!" they both yelled, hurrying down the hallway towards the entrance. John turned a corner and spotted him in Jessie's embrace. "There you are!" John exclaimed, shooting a glare at his soon-to-be ex-wife. Behind her stood Mary, arms folded defensively. "Why didn't you inform us when you were notified that Daddy was awake?" Jessie demanded. "Yeah, John, why?" Mary echoed. Ellen stepped in front of John, saying, "You two, put him in here. Your presence might do more harm than good. Besides, he said he doesn't want to see your deceitful selves." They won't allow us past this point," Jessie cried, her eyes red from tears. Her tone grew stern. How was Mace allowed to run around without supervision? "I heard Grandma shouting really loudly," Mace replied to his mom. Two female security guards approached from behind Mary. "Ladies, we've asked you to leave." Mary huffed and turned. "I want to speak to the boss." "I think Mace should come with us," Ellen suggested, reaching for him. Jessie hugged him tighter and stepped back. "The U.S. includes John, Mace, and me. You're not part of us." John had had enough. "Alex Miller isn't part of us either. Ellen's right. You two are insane. Come on, Mace." Mace leaped from his mother into his father's embrace. "I want to stay with him and Aunt Ellen. They're not crying all the time." "John, please update me on Dad's condition. Is it a stroke? Can he speak?" "They're uncertain and will conduct further tests, monitoring him for a few days." "Yes, he can speak, but it's difficult to hear and understand. Please refrain from visiting until he's ready." "When can we talk?" "Give me a few days. I'll arrange somewhere to stay." "You're staying with me," Ellen asserted. 3 days later, Mason was sitting upright and speaking clearly. Just after the doctor had left, explaining it wasn't a stroke but a small tumor, suggesting it might be operable, there were tears shed by those present. "Have you spoken to your mother?" Ellen rolled her eyes, extending her hand to John. "No, she's still in denial, thinking you two are reconciling. She's been staying at Jesse's and doesn't realize I've found photos and love notes from all her boyfriends. It should be enough evidence to enforce the prenup my dad made her sign to safeguard our company and assets. How's Jesse holding up?" John couldn't respond and glanced at Ellen. She tightened her grip on his hand. She keeps apologizing and pleading for John's forgiveness. Mason looked at his son-in-law. "And?" John shook his head. "She needs help. I'm not sure if the woman I married is still there. I'll do what I can for Maisie's sake." Mace played with the stuffed dog his father had bought him from the hospital gift shop, but listened intently to the conversation. "Mommy needs help. She told me she did something wrong and keeps hugging me. They said I should be discharged in a few days. I won't live in the same house as Mary or Jesse." John expressed, "Dad, Jessie didn't cheat on you. She cheated on me. I believe if you spoke to her, it could help her deal with things. She says she misses you and doesn't know who to turn to." I shouldn't have confronted her so harshly. But I was thinking about you, Dad, and Mason. How could she risk breaking apart what you two have? Besides, she planned to be with him next month during our Toronto assignment. Ellen added, "After that first instance, I should have noticed all the time she went out with her friends while you two were away. Well, it happened, and now we're facing what? 2 divorces? Dad, when you're out, you'll stay with John and me." "And Mason," John chimed in. As they left Mason's room and headed towards the lobby, they heard Mary's loud voice. "He's my husband, and I demand to see him." The hospital security officer informed the woman, "Ma'am, the doctor has restricted both you and your daughter Jessica from seeing Mason Lewis. If you don't calm down, we will be forced to remove you." All right. I'll calm down." Before she could finish, she sprinted towards Ellen, John, and Mason, who was walking with his dad, holding his hand. The security officer tackled her just 10 feet before she reached the corner. As Mary was restrained, she looked up at Ellen, pleading, "Help me." John shielded Mason's eyes to shield him from witnessing his grandmother being restrained. "We'll wait for you outside." Ellen waited for John to leave with Mason, then leaned down and whispered, "You're going to have a sad and lonely life, and you'll only have yourself to blame." Mason's surgery went well, and he fully recovered. However, their plans for celebrating their 45th anniversary were scrapped when Mary received her divorce papers on that very day. Initially, Mary threatened to contest the prenuptial agreement, but backed down when Mason threatened to expose her infidelity to their friends and family with incriminating photos and messages. Since John agreed to let Jesse keep the house, Mary moved in with her, causing them to be ostracized by the rest of the family and friends. Mason mostly stayed at Ellen's house, but visited his mom's place every other weekend. Following his successful recovery, Mason's knee healed, and he began dating his charming physical therapist, who was 15 years his junior. Although they moved in together, they never tied the knot. Mason teasingly called her Grandma Plus, much to Mary's annoyance. What happened to Alex Miller? Well, Mrs. Miller wasn't too pleased when John arrived with all the divorce court paperwork detailing the dates and times of his escapades with Jessica. She was a formidable woman, once a blocker in the real roller derby league. With a swift elbow to the nose and a forceful shove, she sent her soon-to-be ex-husband packing. Glancing back at John, she asked, "Do you think that got his attention?" "Yes, ma'am. I'll be leaving now," he replied. "Feel free to use those documents as you wish." Mrs. Miller, who was missing 2 teeth when she was racing, noticed, "He won't have a penny left when I'm done with him. So how about intimacy and retaliation?" But he was already out the door in the blink of an eye. Jessie persisted in her attempts to reconcile with John, but she eventually realized that her 6-month relationship with Alex, spent mostly in bed, was too much for John to forgive. A year later, She finally gave up when she dropped off Mace at Ellen's house and saw the large engagement ring Ellen was wearing. "Well, if it had to be someone else, I'm glad it's you," Jesse cried before hastily leaving the house. John approached his sister and whispered, "It's the only way she'll let me go," he confided. Mace later mentioned that she had kicked their mother out of their house. Ellen made a playful remark. "I heard a rumor that Mom was caught in bed with Jesse's latest boyfriend. I think there is no loyalty among promiscuous people." "Now take me to the bedroom," she whispered teasingly.
That's the end of the story. Write your opinion in the comments about this story. It will be interesting for us to read it. Also, do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel so as not to miss new, equally interesting and exciting stories. Good luck!